you're still not behind on AI yet. In fact, learning AI right now is the highest ROI decision you can make for yourself. Because today, people who actually know how to use it are getting 10x results with half the effort. And the gap between them and everyone else is growing fast. Now, I've personally been using AI since ChatGPT came out in 2022 and tested more AI tools or prompts than you can even imagine. And what I learned is this: most people aren't behind because they are lazy, lack talent or time. They're behind because advice on the internet is scattered and nobody lays out a clear path that you can follow. So in this video, I'm going to give you that path, step by step. We are going to cover how AI actually works, the fundamentals you need to know, how to master advanced prompting techniques that most people never learn about, and how to make sure it never replaces you. And I'm going to walk you through all of this on this Miro board. Now, before we get into how AI works and how to prompt it, there are a few non-negotiables I need you to set up first. These three things take about 15 minutes to set up and ensure AI is actually changing how you work every single day. Here what they are. So number one, replace your Googling with AI. Seriously, just dump Google and every time you want to ask something, build a habit of opening a ChatGPT or Claude chat and just putting it in there. This will build a habit to send your request to ChatGPT or Claude instead of just simply Googling it and using it the old way. Now, second one is keep it open always. Go on and pin the tab of ChatGPT or Claude, whichever you prefer, but I personally choose Claude every single time. Just pin it and make sure to have it always open to again build the habit of using it. And finally, use your voice, not your keyboard. Utilize tools like Whisperflow or use native built-in dictation or built-in voice mode to prompt AI more efficiently. When you speak, you naturally give more context, which means better outputs. This one habit will completely change how much value you are getting from AI. You will go from text messages to full briefs just because you can speak them and avoid writing long paragraphs. Do these three things before you go any further. Everything else we cover today builds on this foundation. Let's continue. Phase 1. How AI actually works. Now, before we touch any specific tool, we need to talk about what's actually happening under the hood. Because most people skip this. And honestly, if you don't get this, you'll never understand why your outputs keep coming back flat. So here's the core thing. AI isn't thinking the way you do. It's not reasoning through problems like a consultant would. It's not searching the internet unless you specifically turn that on or tell it to. What it's actually doing is way simpler than people think. It was trained on a massive amount of text, books, research, code, transcript, billions of conversations. And what it learned is basically how to predict most likely next chunk of the text based on everything it has seen. That's the engine behind it. Now, what's changed lately is that the top models have gotten really good at simulating deep reasoning before they even respond to you. Like Cloud Opus 4.7 now actually verifies its own output before it tells you the answer. GPT 5.5, which literally dropped a few days ago, can take messy multi-part tasks and just figure it out. Plan, use tools, check it work, and just keep going. That's a real shift from where we were even a year ago, but the underlying mechanic hasn't changed. What you put into the AI model is directly affecting what comes out of it. So let's just go over how AI model works. So first of all, we need to understand a concept of tokens. So what are tokens and why they still matter? The thing is, AI doesn't read in words, it reads in tokens, and you can assume that roughly one token is one word, but it still varies based on the content. Every model has a cap of total tokens it can hold in one session, which is called the context window. Think of it like a whiteboard. The model only sees what's on it right now, and if you erase something, it will disappear. Now, the context windows in 2026, they are massive now. Cloud Opus 4.7 has up to 1 million tokens, when Gemini 3.1 Pro has 2 million tokens, as this is currently the largest production context window available right now. GPT 5.4 matched the Cloud Opus 4.7 with 1 million tokens context window. As a practical rule, the bigger context doesn't always mean better. Models can lose focus deep in very long windows, so front load the most important stuff. And also don't use one chat for 10 completely different tasks. Start fresh when the topic shifts. Now, another thing I want to talk about is adaptive thinking, which is the biggest shift most people haven't still noticed. The current top models now run internal reasoning chains before they respond. Opus 4.7 actually verifies its own outputs before reporting back to you. That's a new behavior that was recently unlocked, like I think a couple weeks ago. And also GPT 5.5 can hold context across long tasks, check its own work, and keep going without you managing every step along the way. As a general rule, when you need hard reasoning, strategy, complex decisions, or debugging, you should use thinking mode. And for quick drafts or simple tasks, just skip it because it's slower and even costs more. Now, hallucination is still real in 2026, and it's actually sneakier right now. Models still confidently generate wrong information, especially on specific numbers, recent events, citations, legal or medical stuff. The new wrinkle is, however, that most interfaces now have web access built in, so the model can pull real data, but it can still misread it or misattribute it. So the rule hasn't changed. Use AI to draft, structure, and reason, never as your only source of verified facts. Alright, since we have foundations in place, now we can actually learn how to prompt AI. And honestly, the number one reason most people get outputs is that they aren't writing good prompts. Current AI models now have adaptive thinking. They can hold complex multi-step reasoning chains. They can surface their own blind spots if you ask them to, before they even start writing. But none of that turns on if you give them nothing to work with. I say this all the time. Someone spends 20 minutes frustrated with the output, and when I look at their prompt, it's just 6 words. Of course, the answer is going to be generic. So here's what actually works when it comes to prompting AI models. I want to teach you prompting framework, which is called RCTF, which stands for Role, Context, Task, Format. And the way it works is by providing different sections in prompt for AI model, which makes it perform better. Let's discuss each one of these. First one is role, and what we put in here is who should it be. For example, act like a world-class direct response copywriter who specializes in conversion for SaaS products. This takes all the knowledge that model has and just narrows down it to single little chunk of knowledge, which contains the expert level stuff for the task you're trying to do. Now, next thing is context. What's the full picture? For example, my audience is D2C brand owners doing 500k to 5 million a year. Their biggest problem is low email open rates. They tried templates and nothing is working. The thing is, as I told you, the context windows are massive. It's million tokens, which allows you to give them 2 or 3 books of context. So please avoid sending just a single text message. Instead, upload files, give it transcriptions and any other context that you can and have on your hands available. Now, task. What exactly should it do? Write a 3-email welcome sequence, each email under 150 words. First email builds trust, second handles objections, third drives the click, no discounts. See how specific I was? I described it specifically that I wanted it under 150 words, what first email should have looked like, what second and what third. I made the implicit explicit. If you're thinking of it, you better make sure you are writing that down in the prompt. And finally, format. How should it present the answer? Return only the email copy, no subject line, no explanation, no preamble. Plain text only, ready to paste. You can also paste a template and just tell it to fill it in. Now, here's a couple comparisons of bad prompts compared to the good prompts. For example, a bad prompt looks something like this. Write me a marketing email. As you see, this is not specific enough, and the way to make it better is this, which is super specific, and let me just read it quickly. Act like a world-class direct response email copywriter. I run cold email agency for e-com brands doing 1 million to 10 million a year. Write a 3-email sequence for new subscribers, each email under 150 words, conversational tone, no discounts, build trust first, return only email copy, no subject line, no preamble. See how specific that was? And that's how your prompt should look like, not just generic stuff like this. Don't do this, please. Now, another thing I want to talk about is pull with push prompting. The way push prompting works is you do all the work and you just give it all the directions or all the instructions. But you can do the complete opposite. You can just tell it the destination and then just tell it to ask it every question it needs to get there. And this way AI does all the heavy lifting. So just apply this framework and just give it role and context, state the outcome you want. For example, I need X result, and just tell it, ask me all the questions you need to create this, then give it back to me in certain format. And one thing you also should remember about prompting AI, it's a lot of iteration. So it's an iterative process and you shouldn't treat your first output as a starting point. Also, to get most value out of a model, you should collaborate with a lot and do a lot of iterations before you get a real great result. And finally, no prompt will give you perfect output first try and won't be giving it every single time. AI models aren't super reliable and you shouldn't 100% rely on their outputs. Moving on to the phase 3. The current model landscape, what to actually use. Alright, this is the phase where things are changing the most, because the current model landscape looks like nothing it did 2 years ago. We now have 4 frontier models competing across coding, reasoning, writing, and business automation, and none of them wins everything. Which means the people winning with AI right now aren't the ones who picked the best tool. They are the ones who figured out how to use them for different tasks in their businesses. That's the real skill now. Let me actually break down what's worth your time right now. Look, so from current landscape, I would highlight these 4 models: Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, and Grok. And let me just go over every single one, what it's best for, and what you should probably use it for. Starting with Claude. And this is general what I use for about 90% of my own tasks. And it's best for writing, reasoning, and deep work, where you actually need a lot of intelligence. It's the most capable publicly available model right now. It's best for deep writing, long documents, agentic coding. You can also create projects inside of it which will load full context once, so you won't be copy-pasting same prompt in every session. Second one is Gemini, which is best for research and if you use Google ecosystem. It connects to Google search and has real-time research and access to current information. It's also natively integrated inside Google Docs, Sheets, Gmail, Drive, and any of the other Google ecosystem tools. And finally, it also allows you to build automated Google Workspace workflows, which is super powerful. Now, ChatGPT. ChatGPT still remains best for broad use and daily tasks because it's super quick and really easy to use. So it's useful for a wide range of everyday tasks, and recently GPT 5.5 came out, which is also a very capable model, has accurate planning and execution, tool usage, and also checks its own work. And ChatGPT also has the most integrations, most plugins with Zapier, Notion, and any other ecosystem tools that you're using. Finally, Grok, which is best for the news and real-time information. And the reason that it's best for it because it's connected to the X and Twitter timelines. So it's able to pull live tweets and information from Twitter and give you citations to it in its own results. That allows it to know what's happening real time, to do fact checking, and also to do research, for example, trend researches. Phase 4, thinking with AI. Now, this is the one that only 1% of people are getting leverage from, because most people treat AI like a vending machine. They put a prompt, get an output, and close the tab. And that's it. But the people building the most with AI right now are doing something completely different. They are using it to think. Before they make a decision, they stress test it. Before they ship a strategy, they try to break it first. Before they even pick a direction, they ask the model to show them what they haven't thought of yet. See, these models are good enough to actually hold the complexity of a real business problem. They can look at your plan, challenges, assumptions, find the weak spots, and give you alternatives, all in one single conversation. And once you start using it that way, everything changes, because you are not just getting better content, you're actually making better decisions. So let me show you how to actually think with AI. When the person is asking AI, he just types in question and AI gives him answer. But the people who use AI to think, they do something completely different. They provide it with context and problem, and then AI talks to them, provides them with guidance, asks additional questions, and eventually gives them some clarity to make the decision. And as you can see, this is an iterative process, not just putting something and get something out of it. Now, how do we shift into this thinking mode? The thing is, as I said already, we provide it with context, situations, constraints, prior attempts. For example, retention dropped 15% post-paywall. Here's the data, likely causes and investigation priorities. Then give it some pushback. Here's my plan, what are my 5 biggest weaknesses? Another thing is just using dialogue to iterate with some constraints. Option B won't fit a 3-week timeline, reframe with that constraint. Now let's do some practice. For example, for marketing, instead of saying write 10 subject lines, we give it our goal, audience, past results, and then task it what angle resonates the most. And the same logic applies for the other stuff. The key insight here is when you are asking it, you consume the output, but when you are thinking, you upgrade your own thinking by doing this iterative process with the AI model as another person basically who you can ask stuff and get some second opinion on. Alright, before we go into the implementation, let's talk about the mistakes. Because even with everything you know, there are a few patterns I keep seeing over and over. And the frustrating thing is, most of them aren't technical at all. They're just about how people think about the tools. So here they are. Mistake number 1, treating outputs as final. AI only gets you 70% there. Your job is the other 30%, which you also can use AI by the way for, but it's more iterative process, so it requires your input and your expertise and your judgment. Mistake number 2 is using wrong model for the task. Models have specialized enough that using the wrong one for the task genuinely costs you quality. For example, if you want to code something, you should probably use cloud models because they are the best right now at it. If you want to do some real-time research, you probably should consider using Gemini or Grok. Now, number 3, not giving feedback. Bad output plus no feedback means bad output again. When model doesn't do something you expected it to do, you should provide it with feedback instead of just starting a new chat and starting from scratch. It's an iterative process, as I said, and the more feedback you give to it, the better it gets. Number 4, starting every session cold. Every new chart starts completely fresh. Instead of this, use projects. It's a widely available features across all model providers like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Grok, and other tools you use. And you can just upload your context once, like a file or some text content, and then every time you start a new chat, it will load this file into its memory, and it will make sure to consider all the things that are in that file and in that project context. Finally, replacing thinking, not just enhancing it. Machines optimize what exists, humans imagine what doesn't. So always stay in the driver's seat. You can absolutely outsource your thinking to the model, but you can never outsource your understanding. Alright. At this point, you understand how these models work, how to prompt them properly, which ones to use for what, how to think with them, and what's killing most people's results. And here's the honest truth. None of it matters if you don't actually change how you work. This is where almost everyone stalls out. Not because the tools are hard, because adding anything new into the existing workflow is uncomfortable. And it's way easier to just keep watching videos about it. So the last phase is purely practical, no more theory, just actual moves that you can make. So it all starts with these 3 layers, in order of the leverage you are getting back. Augmentation, transformation, and automation. First, you start doing what you already do faster. Then you start doing things that you couldn't do before at your scale. And finally, you achieve automation phase where AI is taking actions without you in the loop. Examples for layer 1 include writing first drafts, summarizing docs, generating options to react to, and things like that. Examples of transformation layer 2 are personalized outreach at volume, real-time analysis across 50 documents, and instant research synthesis. This is where the competitive gap starts to actually open up. Finally, layer 3 automation. This is a shift to agentic workflows which connect to your systems, your tools, and are able to execute actions on your behalf. And this is where most of your competitors haven't started yet, so you should probably start exploring this right now. And also I want to talk about the 15-minute audit rule. And this allows you to just find your first integration. List the last 10 things you did at the work this week. For each one of these, just ask, could AI have given me a usable version of this in under 2 minutes? Flag every yes, and then pick ones that cost you most time or energy, and start automating there. Not everywhere, just one thing at a time, and then eventually you will get there where you have everything automated. Also, build your master context block. Do this once. Create a file with all the information about yourself, about your business, who are your employees, what are you doing, what's your strategy, what are your revenue numbers, and any information that can be helpful to AI so it performs better. Also use model routing, so use different models based on the tasks that you are trying to accomplish. Finally, stop watching tutorials and just get your hands dirty. 10 minutes of action beats 10 hours of tutorials. Pick one task today and have AI do it. Now, believe it or not, you're still early. Most businesses haven't even started using AI in meaningful ways, yet alone using agentic workflows which allow you to 100% outsource your work to AI agents. So by actually watching this and implementing this in your business, you are already ahead. And remember, just 10 minutes of actions beats 10 hours of tutorials. So get your hands dirty and start playing with AI and AI tools right now. And if you need help identifying AI opportunities in your business and then implementation of the solutions for those problems, check out the link in the description to book a call with me and my team. We'll help dozens of businesses become AI native. That was it for today. If you're interested in AI operating systems and AI agents that allow you to outsource 80% of your work, check out this video next. See you in the next one.